Good morning. In 5 minutes, it'll be afternoon. Not that that matters much. My name is Steve Lentini, and I'm the founder of Lord and Lentini, and I'm the author of a number of books. A couple of them that I love and are important in today's leadership world is No BS Coaching, How to Wake Up from the BS You Tell Yourself. And then following that is How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon. I'll explain that later. So most CEOs think they have a culture problem. They don't. They have a nervous system problem. Today, we're going to talk about something most leaders never confront, the fact that their company does not mirror your strategy. Think about that. It's not mirroring your strategy. It mirrors your emotional state under pressure. It's mirroring you. And waking up to the power that one has to create is noticing the two energies in their body that are predominantly creating your results. And we'll talk more about that. If you're reactive, your culture becomes defensive. If you're controlling, your team becomes passive. I've had a number of CEOs complaining about that. Well, they won't tell me the truth, Steve. Yeah, where are you in that, I ask? Why is it they're not telling you the truth? Why aren't they willing? And often that's because they're afraid. If you avoid discomfort, truth disappears. That's what's going on. If CEOs don't want to hear it, people notice it, and that's why the truth disappears. Neuroscience is proving this work, by the way. Neuroscience is proving this work. Spiritual maturity demands it. Now, most people don't like that word spiritual in the business world, but I can tell you for a fact, this is all spiritual. All of it. God is never absent. I know because I had a near-death experience on November 18th, 2002. 1 second doing a seminar. Next second, I needed an ambulance, and 5 days later, in intensive care, I flatlined. And I got a peek at what's next. And let me tell you, if we all did and came back like my experience, we wouldn't be so petty. We'd approach life in a whole different way, which is how I established my work. 8,505 days ago, I track it because I'm grateful. It's extra days. Can you imagine having that extra gratitude every day for life? I didn't have it on November 12th and every day before that. Occasionally, but not like I do today. Every day and many moments during each day, I stop to remind myself of all the blessings I have, all that I have to be grateful for. So if you want better results, if you want better innovation and ownership by your employees or their teams, their areas, their results, the question isn't what needs to change on your team. It's what's in you that needs to change. Are you still operating in what's called the primal energy mode? The low frequency energy mode, as R.J. Spina calls it, or David Bayer calls it, the primal mode. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Operating in the higher frequency energy mode, or the positive, powerful energy mode, versus the primal mode. And you can change it. You have to wake up to it. First, it begins by noticing it, and then don't make yourself wrong when you start catching yourself in that lower primal state. Here's how you can tell which state you're in. The lower primal state is associated with these words: anxiety, frustration, stress, anger, sadness, disappointment, depression. You get where I'm going? When you notice that, if that's what's driving you, if those emotions are what's driving you in the moment, you are in a lower primal state. And neuroscience is proving that you get a return on investment for the time spent in that energy. And that return is very low. You start to get back more and more of that. the mirror principle. Like Wayne Dyer once said, when you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. When we get squeezed, we get to learn what we need to work on. We get what we need to work on. And I still work with that every day. It's a journey. I haven't found the way. I tell my clients, if I ever tell you I found the way, run away. So noticing it means then you can shift into the more powerful state, the higher frequency energy state. And imagine the return on investment compared to the lower primal state. You get a higher return on investment for the time you spend in the creative, powerful, positive, energetic state. And here's the words that describe that state: happiness, joy, stress-free, peaceful, cooperative, helping others win, open to feedback, loving the moment, gratitude, surrender. Surrender is not a negative word. I've had CEOs tell me, don't use that word in front of my sales team. Why? It's surrender to the moment. I've closed some of the most amazing sales worth millions of dollars by allowing the future client, because that's what they turned into, to be in the space they were in. And then I helped them buy, whether it was from me or not. I heard what they needed and suggested it. I have an amazing story about a major university that told my salesperson and me, I went along for the call. When we got there, hey, just want to tell you before we get started, we can't give you the business. and I said, that's fine. I just want to understand why we're here then. And my salesperson was ready to cut my throat with a knife, because that person wanted to respond in the old-fashioned way. What do you mean? We're one of the best. Haven't you heard? We do this and we do that. That would have shut the person down. And when I said, that's fine, why are we here? I'm curious. I want to get to know you guys. I heard a lot about you. That started a whole conversation about what she had heard, the bad, the good, etc. I allowed the whole dialogue. And then I said, so why is it we wouldn't be able to get the business? And the buyer said, and this was the decision maker, well, we have 16 suppliers, some for over 30 years, one for 35. And we're going to go to one. How could we ever award it to you? And you know what I answered with? A surrender. You're right. I wouldn't do that. If I were you, people would think I was crazy. So I said, tell me what you're looking for from those 16 suppliers. What's going on? What's happening? Why do you have to go to one? She told me the whole story, and I ended with, it sounds like you need a partner. And then she said, well, tell me about that. What's your idea about partnership? I said, well, didn't you just say you're bringing in all 16 suppliers? Yes. So I said, I can't believe that not one of them would have the same idea. And if not, then call me in a couple of weeks and I'll gladly share it with you. That was a total surrender. I listened to what the client said. We could never give you the business. And I understood it. 16 existing suppliers. That university would have said, you gave it to who? Someone we've never done business with? 2 weeks later, I got a phone call. She said, Steve. I said, yes. She said, would you come in next week on Tuesday? I said, sure. Tell me why. She said, well, I want to hear about your idea of partnership. I said, that's fine with me. I said, would you do me a favor? She said, sure. I said, I know this sounds ridiculous, but would you add me to that list of 16 and make it 17? She said, yes. 3 months later, we were awarded the business. Imagine that. Imagine if I had fought that, or if I allowed my salesperson to take over and fight it with what was naturally a response from most salespeople. It's the same with CEOs. They're constantly defending and fighting instead of learning when to surrender, when to shut up, when to listen. and they don't even notice their own states of energy. They don't even notice their own states of energy. So they have their head in a difficult place. And I have it on the thumbnail that's attached to this YouTube live. Waking Up is another book that I just wrote and put it on YouTube. I put it on Amazon. Wake Up, Jump Into Your Life. Transform your thinking, transform your life. That's why I wrote the book, No BS Coaching, because I tell it plain like it is. I don't care if you're the CEO, the board of directors, the chairman of the board, you're creating your results. If you're a sales leader, it's the same thing. You're responsible for the results, and your team is mirroring you. Whatever complaints you have about your team, it's you as well. And then I followed it up with How to Train Your Mind, written by a dragon. Program your mind for success. The reason I put dragon in there is I'm born in the year of the dragon. And what I help people do is a mind hack, as David Baer calls it. I help people reprogram their mind. That's why I came up with the acorn brain. Is here, I'll show you my trademark. It's the small-minded thinker, that little voice you have in your head and that everyone has in their head. And learning how to manage it. Don't let that little thinker run you. You can learn to run it. And how you can notice when it's running you is you're in a reaction state. You're mostly reacting and you're in a lower primal energy. Sadness, depression, anger, frustration, disappointment. All those words are tied to those states that are not going to get you where you want to go. When you're in peaceful state, creative state, restful state, joyous state, happy state, open-minded, working with your team, helping them win, those are powerful, powerful, high-frequency energy states. You're going to get a higher return on your investment, and your team will mirror that. Your team will be more powerful, more creative, more nimble on their feet, and they're going to get you better results. But don't take my word for it. You've got to prove that to yourself. These are the habits of top producers. And we do a lot of work with top producers, and we've seen it. I've got clients for over 20 years, one for 26 years, and they're consistently proving results, having outcomes that are even beyond their imagination. Increased sales, increased growth amongst their teams, even personal awareness and self-awareness from their teams, because their leaders are modeling that. It's a choice. You have a choice in everything in life on how you respond. Will you be a reaction like that person that's on the thumbnail with their head in a very dark place, or will you learn to be a powerful creator? You can be a victim if you want. The tale of woe is me is very predominant. Maybe dress up as disguise yourself, get a beard or get a different hairdo and a dress and dye your hair and wear a wig, whatever it is. Go hide out amongst your teams. You're going to go to the cafeteria. You'll hear all kinds of gossip. Instead of people going to the person or people that can do something about it, they complain amongst themselves like victims. If you're complaining about your team, your executive team, your board of directors, I don't care who it is you're complaining about, you're wasting time and you're gossiping unless you're taking it to the people that can do something about it. It's up to you. You have the power to reprogram your mind. And the more often you catch it and take the high frequency energy choice, the one that enlivens you, it's powerful. You know it because you can feel it in your body. You have a different outcome. And that's the work I do. So if you'd like to, my books are on Amazon. Steve Lentini. Here, I'll show you the books if you'd like. Steve Lentini, No BS Coaching, How to Wake Up from the BS You Tell Yourself. Everybody's got a BS story somewhere. I do still somewhere. I have to look at it every day. I have to do this work every day. And then How to Train Your Mind. written by a dragon. Program your mind for success. We can reprogram our minds. Neuroscience is proving it with fMRIs, where there's a facilitated MRI and they're watching the brain respond. For mostly negative thinkers, by the way, they can see new neural pathways opened on the opposite side of the prefrontal cortex. The right side is the negative, right here, the negative side. The positive and new neural pathways are open for those people when they learn to train their brain. And so what happens is you more automatically default to the positive, powerful choices, to the high frequency energy, once you recognize the low primal energy and you start reprogramming your mind. It's up to you. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. You got to prove it to yourself. I haven't found the way. I work on it every day, and I can tell you it makes a difference. As I said, for my clients for over 20 years, some of them, they've had amazing results in their life, and they realize they still have to remind themselves every day to be in the wake-up state, in the positive state, the powerful state, the higher frequency energy state, because this mind was trained by the caveman days. So it's predominantly operating on fear and stress and worry. I'll leave you with a thought. Mark Twain said he had many troubles and worries in his life, 95% of which never occurred. And that's the truth. That's true for me. And you have to prove that to yourself. Think about that. And if you're in the low frequency primal state, you're going to get the lower frequency primal results. You're going to feel like you're fighting life. Eckhart Tolle said, when you fight life, life fights you. Life is a gift. It's for you. I just wrote another book called You Missed God on the Way to the Mosque, the Temple, or the Church. How to See God Everywhere. That's the thing to look at in life, that in the now is where the gifts of life are. And if you don't like what's happening in the now, it's because you're fighting life. You haven't surrendered to the gift. Life is coaching you. Life is coaching you. And sometimes you need a coach. I have CEOs that I coach. Sometimes they need help looking at their life differently, looking at what shows up differently, finding the gift, and then changing themselves. And when they change, things change in their companies because people learn that method. They learn to change. In some companies, I coach a lot of the leaders and even up and coming leaders to start to notice the difference between the two energy states, the high frequency, powerful creative state versus the low frequency primal state. We learned it when we were worried about peeking out of the cave and getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. Well, when you go to the supermarket today, you don't have to worry about being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger or a pterodactyl coming down to swooping you away from the parking lot. I think it'd be more fun in some ways, right? Oh, Dad made it to the car. Oh, great. Yay, get to work, Dad. And Dad made it home, or Mom made it into the house. The pterodactyl didn't get her. We'd have a better appreciation for life. That's where gratitude comes in. It's not a woo-woo state. It's a powerful, creative state. It's a high frequency energy to be in gratitude. So that's the work I do, is helping leaders discover their powerful, creative, high frequency state and not making them wrong when they fall back into the low energy primal state, because it's human. It's human. We're going to catch it. It's going to happen. Then, though, if you have a process to return to the high frequency, positive creator state, you'll see different results. But you got to prove it to yourself. First of all, I suggest for CEOs, get a 360. Let's discover how often you're in the primal state, the negative state, the fearful state. Are people afraid of you? Are they afraid to tell you the truth? I have a lot of CEOs that complain about that. Well, people don't tell me the truth. Yeah, well, let's unpack why. You get to choose which state you'll stay in predominantly, and you get to see what the return on investment is. So if you want to reach out to me, it's steve@stevelentini.com. I'll show you how to spell it one more time. Steve, over here, steve@stevelentini.com. I'm glad to help. It's what I do. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.